The Kinshasa Democratic Republic of the Congo Temple, a personal perspective. In this series of presentations, we will describe some of the beautiful and inspiring events now taking place as the people of the DR Congo and others in the Temple District prepare for the 163rd Temple of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It will be the first temple in Africa in nearly 14 years, and the first temple in Africa where English will not be the primary language used. Part 1, Preparing for the Kinshasa Temple Open House. In this segment, we will get a glimpse of some of the preparations that were made for the Kinshasa Temple Open House. First, a few words about the DR Congo itself. The DR Congo is situated in the heart of French-speaking Central Africa. It is the third largest country in Africa, about the size of the United States east of the Mississippi River. In addition to French, 4 other national languages are spoken widely: Kikongo, Lingala, Swahili, and Chiluba. Kinshasa, the capital city, is located near the western edge of the country. The Temple District has not yet been announced. However, there are several countries with significant French-speaking populations that surround the DR Congo, including the Republic of Congo, Brazzaville, the Central African Republic, Cameroon, Gabon, Burundi, and Rwanda. One reason for showing these maps is that many people don't have a good idea where the DR Congo is located. After a young women group in their ward left a heart attack on the front door, Chris and Angie Maznick, who have also been called as Kinshasa Temple missionaries, realized that some people must think that the DR Congo is located in France. A few years ago, I was in Deseret Book and someone asked me about where we would be serving. When I mentioned that the DR Congo was in Africa, the person shook their head and replied, "That's a long drive." This is an architectural rendering of the Kinshasa Temple. Over the next few weeks, we'll trace the temple's history from its announcement to the completion of the finished building. And from its completion as a sacred building to its dedication and use as a house of the Lord by the Latter-day Saints in this choice part of the world. The February arrival of Brenda and Lorraine Jameson, president and matron of the Kinshasa Temple, marked the beginning of a new phase in the temple's history. Here the Jamesons are shown greeting Bukubu Mingochi Francois, the Kinshasa mission president, at left, and Lomboto Pascal, our beloved mission office associate, at right. We arrived in Kinshasa a little less than a month later, on 4th of March 2019. We were met at our apartment by the brother and sister Ngoy Wilambwe Eme, the Jamesons, Catherine Diab, and Tara, who had helped furnish our apartment. 3 additional couples are scheduled to arrive in the coming months. It was great to see some of the young missionaries we loved who had arrived in Kinshasa during our first mission here that ended last June. Most of these will be finishing up and returning home in the coming months. On our walk up to the temple site, we were thrilled with the warm greeting of Moise at left, one of the boys living on the streets we got to know on a previous mission, along with some new friends. Moise still only speaks a few words of French, but if we understood him correctly, he was saying that he is now able to sleep in an orphanage at nights instead of on the street. We appreciated the rhythm of welcome that Tony played on an empty bottle. Along the street that runs to the temple, Avenue Ouya, things were being spruced up. We like to think it was at least in part the influence of the temple, including the example of its beautiful street-side landscaping. Here at the headquarters of the UNHCR, the United Nations High Command for Refugees, new trees sat in metal pots along the dirt walkway. Everything seemed calmer than when we left last June. I asked several of our Congolese friends if they had noticed the same thing. They all said that there was a noticeable difference since the election in December, the first election since Congolese independence in 1960 that had not been marred by serious fighting. Even the policemen seemed less stressed and did not seem to be stopping people indiscriminately. We were told that they were being paid regularly again, at least with part of their salary. There is a palpable difference in the air. A few days ago, I passed the same spot again, and this policeman signaled me to come and talk with him. He said something about a photo I didn't understand at first. I thought that perhaps he was going to warn me not to take any pictures of the building. But then it became clear that he just wanted me to take a photo of him standing in front of the entrance. After I took the photo, I asked for his phone number so I could share it with him. He said his phone could not show pictures, but I said I would try to send it as a text message anyway. It failed. He didn't have email either. But when I gave him an invitation to come to the Temple Open House with me, he said, "That's what I want, a little picture like this one." I told him that unfortunately we didn't have a printer at home, but I will try to see if there's a way I can get it printed somewhere else. Another day I walked past a telephone SIM card booth on the side of the street. To shield themselves from the hot sun, the owner and two policemen had crowded themselves under a tiny orange umbrella. I greeted them warmly as I went by, and then one of the policemen waved me over. He asked if I had a little money I could give him to quench his thirst with a sucre, the local term for a soft drink. I told him that as missionaries, all our donations go directly to the church, since local leaders can make better decisions than we could about where our help can do the most good. But I said I would be glad to pray with them. I asked them what were their biggest worries, and they said to be able to provide for their families, that they would be protected from harm, and that peace would come to the Congo. So the four of us stood in a circle in the dirt at the side of a busy road with our arms around one another's shoulders and prayed, with love in my heart for these good men, that the Lord would hear their prayers. Even the taxis have been spruced up. They used to be any color of the rainbow. Now the government has required that all of them be painted in shades of yellow so they can be easily identified. At left, physicians at the government-run clinics peacefully demonstrate, asking for an increase in pay that had been promised to them. Previously, such demonstrations had often been shut down by the government. All along the final approach to the entrance of the temple is a long sidewalk surrounded by a beautiful, well-kept lawn. We like the star pattern that was cut into the ground cover around each palm tree on the approach to the temple grounds. To the left of the temple entrance is this stone monument. To the right was this guardhouse. The man looking at the camera might appear formidable, but in real life he's our friend Jean-Louis. He began attending church in our ward during our first mission here. Throughout our mission he kept attending church but never joined. What a joy when we returned and he told us that he'd been baptized and was preparing to go to the temple. He is the only member in his family but is looking forward to bringing them to the Temple Open House. During the day, the gate is often crowded with members waiting for friends or for transportation. I like Frère Justin's uniform. On the right it reads Delta Protection. On the left it reads Kinshasa Temple. I was also struck by the appearance of Sister MAWISA-NKOKO Lisette. She is the head gardener for the temple. You might be wondering whether she put on this colorful dress especially for her photo, taken at the end of the day as she was preparing to return home. But when I had taken a photo of her in midday, she was already wearing the same dress as she worked, though without the dress shoes. In other places in the world, a gardener such as her might have been wearing coveralls, but in typical Congo high style, she was dressed as beautifully as her garden. I told her to choose her favorite place on the grounds for her photo, and she came here. Gregg Johnson of Half Moon Studio was finishing up the black painted detail on the temple inscription. He's worked on temples all over the world. He said he has felt the Lord's help on many occasions, including the precise color matching for the dozens of shades used for temple white. For example, as he began to decorate some of the Kinshasa temple rooms with gold leaf, he found it would not reliably stick to the walls. So he found a beautiful gold leaf application with a vinyl base. He went to 3 stores in Kinshasa and bought out their stock. The gold leaf vinyl that came from the 3 stores was each a little different in color. However, as he decorated, he found he had just enough from each store to finish each piece of the decoration using a consistent color. Other areas of the temple grounds were less serene. Imagine the noise and hubbub as 3 lawnmowers noisily churned within a single narrow line of sight. Others were lugging the heavy materials for the welcome tent. These brothers were exhausted from their strenuous labor in the oppressive heat and humidity. One man in the center took dead aim with his heavy sledgehammer and finished the pounding in of the last tent stake for the welcome roof tent. Within an air-conditioned room nearby, these brothers cheerfully helped assemble welcome envelopes for VIPs who would be coming to the open house. My wife, Kathleen, had been asked to come in the next day and attach a CD of the Tabernacle Choir to some of the packets. Then it was discovered that the name Mormon appeared prominently on the CD case, and the plan was scrapped. However, the next day the decision was reversed. She and Sister Shauna Peterson of the mission office tied ribbons to attach the CDs to about 300 packets, returning home that night with sore hands but happy hearts. Entering the service center, I saw Elonda Yomete Popol, who with Conde Germando, whose family won a visa lottery and is now relocated to Utah, had previously helped with our computers and network at the mission office. It was a joy to be reunited with Chitundu Yomersi, left, assistant temple recorder, and Ngoy Mwilambwe Eme, right, temple recorder. Eme was previously our bishop and our colleague at the mission office. Yomersi is our current bishop. In addition to their many duties at the temple, they are responsible for making sure the physical facilities and related needs of the temple presidency and temple couples are taken care of. On Monday, thanks to their efforts, water filters at our apartment were hooked up, so we wouldn't have to use bottled water anymore for drinking and cooking. One of the many everyday conveniences that you don't miss till it's not there. One night, as several of us were working late at the apartment building, I met Victor Bassi Ukorebi, the temple facilities manager for the West Africa and Southeast Africa areas. He had a wonderful surprise for us, a gift of some colorful coasters from Accra, Ghana. They had come from Elder Don and Sister Linda James, the parents-in-law of our oldest son, who were serving as a family history missionaries there. We were equally surprised when, after reading my name tag carefully, Victor told us that my parents, Mark and Elma Bradshaw, had taught the gospel to him in the city of Abeokuta during their second mission to Nigeria in the 1980s. The highlight of our first day back in Kinshasa was to enter the temple with President and Sister Jameson. In an unhurried way, they took the time to show us each of the rooms, shared some of their thoughts about how things might be made to work as comfortably as possible in the small spaces, and spoke of the deep feelings. I was touched not only by the beautiful spirit and surroundings of the temple, but also the great love and kindness we felt in their presence. Sister Chris Gates, who with her husband Ed is responsible for the temple construction history, had written to ask if we could send her a photo of the main temple entrance with some blue sky showing. 2 days after our arrival, the weather cooperated at the end of the day, just as the sun added a tint of orange to the blue. How happy we are to see the temple building finished, and how much we look forward to seeing it in full operation after the dedication.